What if Kenjaku had gotten Jogo as well as Mahito at the end of the Shibuya incident? At the end of the Shibuya incident, we see Kenjaku absorbing Mahito in order to use idol transfiguration to incarnate all of the sorcerers from the past that Kenjaku has made binding vows with and promise them that they would be players in the culling games whenever they would occur. As he's doing this, Kenjaku states that he wishes he could have gotten Jogo as well.
To be honest, I wanted to have Jogo as well.
Now, why does Kenjaku say that? Because he needed Mahito for an incredibly important reason. Before we get too deep into the video though, you should subscribe, because statistically speaking, you probably haven't, just because the majority of viewers haven't, so why don't you just go ahead and get that out of the way and do both of us a huge favor. We good? Awesome. Now let's get into it. Kenjaku's entire plan was hinging completely on Geto and Mahito. He needed Mahito because he needed to be able to incarnate all of the sorcerers from the past, and he needed Geto because he needed Mahito, and without curse spirit manipulation, he wouldn't have been able to use idol transfiguration. So pretty much Kenjaku hit the jackpot when he found Geto's body and then when Mahito came into existence. Because without idol transfiguration, Kenjaku would not have been able to start the entire culling games, which was his whole plan. And the reason Kenjaku didn't absorb Mahito sooner or earlier in the series is because he wanted Mahito's technique to become more refined while fighting Yuji. Because the rules of curse spirit manipulation are very specific. Kenjaku could absorb any curse spirit that is 2 rating points below, so he could absorb a grade 4, 3, or 2 with ease. And these absorbed curse spirits just function as a Shikigami. They can just be released whenever. But curse spirit manipulation also has another factor. You can use the technique of an absorbed curse one time. However, once you absorb that curse spirit, their technique does not improve or get any more refined after you have absorbed them. So upon the time of consumption, their technique does not change. It doesn't get any worse, but it also doesn't get any better. So Kenjaku intentionally waited to absorb Mahito because he needed idol transfiguration to be stronger than it was at the time that he met him. And his way of doing that was Mahito fighting Yuji, or just fighting other people in general, but specifically Yuji really allowed Mahito to become significantly stronger because Yuji was like the opposite to Mahito, so Mahito was really encouraged to fight and strengthen himself in their fights. And then when Mahito was on the brink of death, his technique was finally refined enough for Kenjaku to just slurp him up and then use idol transfiguration to start the culling games. All of this to say, Jogo's technique was not necessary for Kenjaku's plan. However, he says that it would have been helpful, and I have to completely agree with him here, because Jogo is one of the most powerful cursed spirits we've ever seen. I'm one of the biggest Jogo glazers out there. I love the dude so much, and if Kenjaku had him, things would have been very different. As one of the 4 unregistered special grade disaster curses, Jogo has incredible potential. He is only one of 4 beings to use the maximum technique, those 4 beings being Kenjaku, Geto, Jogo, and then Aso, which is kind of random that Aso also did it when he was like a very weak character. Yes, he has the title of special grade, but he got destroyed by an incredibly weak Yuji and Nobara, so he's not that strong. And Jogo's maximum technique specifically is incredibly strong. I mean, he summons a meteor to just crash into the freaking earth. He also has an incredibly powerful domain because he states that anyone who is just in the domain would instantly be burned alive from the pure heat. So when he opens his domain, he doesn't even need to use the sure hit effect. The person just has to be trapped there and they're cooked. On top of all of this, Jogo is incredibly fast, incredibly strong, and has insane regenerative abilities.
This one's another level stronger.
Leave the rest to me, old friend.
And then again, on top of all of this, Jogo's technique is incredibly powerful. The fact that his technique can just spew lava and fire, and all of his Shikigami as well, mean that Cursed Flames is one of the most destructively capable techniques we've ever seen. So if Kenjaku had this incredibly powerful being in his arsenal, things would have definitely gone differently for him in the culling games. And the most efficient way to use Jogo would not have been to use him like he used Mahito, because again, he needed idol transfiguration specifically for his plan. However, he has no specific need for Cursed Flames. It would have been Jogo that would have been helpful, not necessarily Cursed Flames. So pretty much he could have just summoned Jogo and then used him to just do his bidding. The same way we see Geto using special grade curse spirits against Toji, Kenjaku would have been able to do the same thing, except Jogo is, again, one of the most powerful cursed spirits we've ever seen, so he is probably stronger than almost every single other cursed spirit that Kenjaku has. Essentially, with Jogo, Kenjaku's capability would have been extremely high, because the Cyclops cursed spirit is beating 90% of characters we've seen on screen.
Third one down.
So if Kenjaku had him as well as every other cursed spirit he already has, plus his other techniques and his massive intellect and cursed energy reserves, he would have been so much more powerful. With Jogo, I think Kenjaku would be clearly the third strongest in the series. Now, you might already think that Kenjaku is the third strongest in the series, and that's okay, but I'm just saying that the debate between him and Yuta for number 3 is very divisive, and I don't personally have a solid stance on it, but I have flip-flopped between the two of them quite a bit. But if Kenjaku had Jogo, I would comfortably give it to Kenjaku, because Jogo is just incredibly powerful, and not a lot of people realize that. Now, even if Kenjaku got Jogo as a cursed spirit that he could have used freely, would things have actually happened differently in the series? Because over the course of the series, Kenjaku's fights have been pretty one-sided. When he fought Yuki and Choso, that fight wasn't necessarily a blowout, but Kenjaku always had the clear lead, specifically because Yuki wasn't using her domain. And his fight with Takaba, if you can even really call it a fight, wouldn't have ended much differently because Takaba's technique is so busted. So really the question is would Kenjaku have done things differently if he had acquired Jogo and if Sukuna hadn't have killed him? And the thing is I don't think Kenjaku's plan would have changed a whole lot if he had acquired Jogo as well. Because Kenjaku has been brewing this plan for thousands of years. It has been his entire goal for as long as we have known the character. Which isn't that long comparatively to how long he's lived, but just for the sake of the argument, he's had this plan for a very long time. So acquiring a frivolous cursed spirit like Jogo would not have really changed his plan or how he did things. Because I think the only instance in which Kenjaku would have gone off script is if he was fully confident he could have beat Sukuna and or Gojo in a fight. And with Jogo, he still would have been nowhere close to beating either one of them. And the reason I say that is because Kenjaku's whole plan was to forcibly evolve cursed energy overall. He didn't want to rule Earth or be the most powerful sorcerer of all time because it just wasn't possible because of how powerful both Sukuna and Gojo are. So that's why Kenjaku wasn't upset when he didn't get Jogo, because it didn't really alter his plan, it just would have been a helpful tool. Now if Jogo had become a player in the culling games, that would have been a different story, because if Jogo had been in the culling games, he would have been able to wreak so much havoc. He would have just used his lava and his domain and his meteor to just wreak maximum destruction across the colonies. And while there definitely were a few characters that could have potentially taken him down, like Higuruma, and then there's also someone like Yuta who absolutely would have been able to defeat Jogo, Jogo would have easily taken out characters like Reggie-Star or Hazunoki. So if Kenjaku had been able to absorb Jogo and then make him a player in the culling games, that could have changed things and prevented the Jujutsu sorcerers like Yuji and Megumi from fully executing their plan that eventually led to them defeating Sukuna and Kenjaku and saving the day. But other than that, unfortunately, Jogo would not have made a big difference. It would have made Kenjaku much stronger, but strength isn't what Kenjaku needed. And that explanation makes sense because Kenjaku wasn't upset that he didn't get Jogo, because he knew that it wouldn't have made a difference because Kenjaku is incredibly intelligent, so there weren't really any outcomes that he didn't see coming, other than, of course, his death. Thank you for watching all the way until the end of the video. I hope you learned something, and if you didn't, dang. But watch all my other videos and I'm sure you'll learn something there. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already so that we can meet each other again, and I will see you in the next one.